Welcome back, and thank you for staying with All Angles. Now, Gauteng residents are faced with crumbling infrastructure that includes an aging power grid, lack of access to water and poor road network. The lack of maintenance and corruption are the main contributors to the breakdown of infrastructure, leaving communities with continuous blackouts and water cuts. But what is being done to address these shortcomings in the province? Well, we've got Paul Berkowitz in the non-profit organization, the Third Republic. Paul, thank you very much for your time here on All Angles. Just firstly, looking at South Africa and all the disasters that have been happening that are clearly showing that we don't have proper infrastructure or that we don't maintain it. In your organization, what is it that you're finding if you do investigate what our infrastructure looks like in South Africa?
Maseko, thank you for having me. Our research and work concentrates mainly on local government with a focus on the 8 metro municipalities. And over there in the metros, the need for new infrastructure to accommodate, among other things, a lot of in-migration of people from the rest of the country and the rest of the continent, that need is much more acute than in the other municipalities in more rural areas. But it is a failure on national and provincial level to be proactive with infrastructure and to create a more conducive socio-economic environment, which includes job creation, which includes secure housing, that acts as a push factor for people to migrate to the metros. So the problem is on all levels. What we are seeing at the local government level is there are problems which have been put off for years which are coming home to roost, mostly around payments to Eskom and bulk electricity supply. There's also a growing recognition that there's been underinvestment in water infrastructure, particularly in the Gauteng metros, and that's a growing problem, and it's an imminent problem that hasn't been taken care of. And those, I think, are the main problems.
And corruption, how far has that gotten us deep into this problem? How deep has corruption gotten us into this issue now, where you're finding government being reactive more than what they were supposed to be years ago to make sure that the maintenance is happening?
It's a huge and it's a growing problem, and it's a long-standing problem, Maseko. Corruption, maladministration, not having proper financial controls has all led to the backlog, whether it was through corruption, which we recognize as a huge problem, and the Auditor General's Office and other bodies have flagged this for years, and we've had a culture of impunity where nothing has been done. But there's been an underinvestment in infrastructure in all 3 spheres of government. There are infrastructure budgets that are bloated. We know, for example, living in Johannesburg, there's been a cloud over the JRA, the Joburg Roads Association, for years now under the previous administration, and there's still concerns currently. And of course, we track political risk, particularly the failure of coalitions in the metros to form stable governments. That has a direct impact on service delivery. If you are spending half or more of council's time with votes of no confidence and replacing mayors and speakers, you don't have time for the business of local government.
Yeah, exactly. I think quite a lot of people in the electorate would agree with you when you say that. So what's the solution then, Paul? Because, I mean, when you look at it, for instance, with City Power, you just go on their Twitter page during load shedding times and you see how many repairs they have to do, how many teams they have to send out there, because their infrastructure is just not able to handle load shedding and is not able to come back online. Even though I know that some of the responsibility is with us as residents to make sure that we've switched off, those things that might take up too much power when the power returns, right? But what is the solution? It looks like, should we just stay despondent as South Africans that our infrastructure is ailing and therefore that's our lives?
Maseko, there are some positive developments, and I'm always optimistic. On the electricity front, more and more metros and hopefully other municipalities soon have started conversations with independent power producers. They're either at the contract stage, requesting proposals, and we're already seeing some success in Cape Town, in Johannesburg, and in Ekurhuleni to move us a little bit off the grid and reduce the reliance on Eskom and reduce load shedding. Water infrastructure is a huge concern, and that's something that we need to look at resolving, because that's a backlog that's grown a lot. And obviously, if there's a way to stabilize the coalitions and ensure that there's good, clean government, that is the long-term solution. Our work at the Third Republic is not just to measure the political risk, but to develop and capacitate ordinary South Africans, communities, civil society, to hold particularly local government accountable. We are looking at ways to make tender processes and budget spending more transparent, and for communities to have a greater say and greater oversight in what happens.